Hey guys, welcome back to a new YouTube video, and today we're going to be reacting to 8 Australian stereotypes that are not true. Roll the intro. Just before we get into this video guys, if you guys can just go and leave a like on this video and also consider subscribing to my channel if you aren't already, and turn on that notification bell so you will never miss another video. And I'm still playing around with the audio settings on my new camera, so let me know if there's anything that needs to be adjusted down on my comments page. The link is down in the description below. But yeah, so I haven't actually come up with the actual lists. I kind of took them from different websites, so I will leave those websites down in the description below. Here's the first one. Here's the second one. Here's the third one. If I'm looking slightly off, it's because I'm looking at my screen. But yeah, so I think that's enough talking, and I'm going to get into number 1. Let's try that. There we go. So number 1, they ride kangaroos. So firstly, that is 100% not true, because not only would that be very unethical and quite cruel actually, kangaroos aren't actually probably big enough or strong enough to hold a person, even if you wanted to, and even if they let you. And they're also not around the cities, they're only really in the bush, so unless you're wanting to get a trip from one side of the bush to another side of the bush, you're not going to be able to find ones anyway. So that's 100% not true. I've never ever seen someone ride a kangaroo, and I've been there a few times. But number 2. So they eat Vegemite on everything. So for those of you who know what Vegemite is, well, for those of you who don't know what Vegemite is, it's very similar to what is known as Marmite in South Africa. And unless you are my dad or my little brother, who, yes, he's not Australian, my little brother's not Australian, but unless you are them, then you do not eat Vegemite on everything, and that is a completely false statement. Let's just look there. So Australians do eat it maybe like once a day or something on toast or for breakfast or lunch, but it is a complete exaggeration of how much they eat. They probably only have once, maybe twice a day, not in every single thing like seasoning. And number 3, everybody surfs and wears no shoes. So the first time, I'm now 14, the first time I surfed was, yes, it was in Australia, but that was about 2 years ago when I was there for the very first time. Never surfed before that. So that, and I'd been there many times before that. So that is 100% not true. And when they're at the beach or around in cities that are around beaches and all that, people tend to wear flip-flops or thongs around there, but they do. It's not like nobody wears shoes. It's not a rule, just because they don't want to have sand in their shoes. And another misconception coming in at number 4, and by the way, these are in no particular order, it's just as I found them. They all know each other. So many people see someone overseas and recognize that they're Australian and be like, oh, I've got a mate that is in Australia, do you know them? But believe it or not, Australia is actually quite big, even though there's only about a population of about 24 million. So yes, it's a lot of people, but compared to it, for its size, it's not many people. But it's actually about what was the exact thing? More or less the same size as the US as far as land goes. So that is very, very big. So that's probably why nobody knows every single person. Coming in at number 5, the home of deadly animals. So yes, Australia does have quite a lot of deadly animals, but you are not necessarily going to be bitten by an animal or killed by one of these animals if you go to Australia. So Australia is home to things like venomous snakes, creepy spiders, blue-ringed octopi, um, sharks, saltwater crocs, all that. But you are more likely to actually be killed by a horse than be killed by any of these creatures in Australia, because they're probably more scared of you than you are of it. And if you're my mum, you are very scared of it. So yeah. Coming at number 6, Australians are convicts. So let me just quickly get my laser pointer. Sorry, I did not know I didn't have a laser pointer. So I've got a nice little meme over here. You guys can see right over here. It says here it's from Madagascar penguins, whatever. It says mate is just short for inmate, because Australia, it was literally a bunch of convicts forced to live there. So between 1788 and 1868, about 164,000 British convicts were condemned to Australia. But that doesn't necessarily mean all 24 million citizens have a criminal history. About 71% do, what's the word? Identify as having British ancestry. But there's about 6 million migrants that majority come from places such as Europe and Asia. So they aren't necessarily related to convicts. Number 7, Australia is one big desert. So when you think of, especially when I also tend to think of Australia as one big desert when you first think of it, but it's actually not like you see it over here. It's not just red dust all across the country. There are, and like in movies such as Crocodile Dundee, they also make it seem like this, which, yes, there are. Australia is made up of lots of desert sand like this. But about 80% of Australia's population lives within like 50 to 100 kilometers of the coast in urban areas and built up cities. So along the coast you'll tend to see quite a lot of cities, and then more further in you'll see less cities and more of the outback / desert. And then while we're on the topic of a desert, it's not always hot. There are beautiful mountains, such as, I think they're called the Blue Mountains, that get very, very cold and up to negative 23 degrees Celsius and negative 9.4 degrees Fahrenheit in places such as Charlotte's Pass in New South Wales. There's also regular snow seasons in places such as Victoria and New South Wales, and even Tasmania, and they get snow. So it's not necessarily just like this with the sand. They also get snow. I'm not too sure where this picture was taken, but yeah. Then number 9. So, especially if you're Bart Simpson, you tend to think that because you're in Australia, for some reason, your toilets and sinks Vortex will rotate in the opposite direction. That is 100% not true. You can be anywhere in the world and it could go either direction. It just literally depends on the geometry of the toilet or the sink. So it's not really... Yes, it could rotate in the opposite direction, but that's not because the toilet was made in Australia or was made in wherever. It's just got to do with the geometry and like the science behind mathematics and science and all that behind it. And then number 10 is not all Australians are ball tamperers. So this I did come up myself. I won't mention names of who this is referring to, but there's a misconception since 2018 when Australia was in South Africa playing against South Africa in cricket, and they tampered the ball with sandpaper, that now every single Australian who plays cricket will have sandpaper in their pocket and try to tamper that ball, which, if you think about it, it's not true at all. It's just silly individuals who decided to do that. So, yeah. And I think that's the last one. Why is my screen freezing? But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, which I hope you guys did, make sure to go and leave a like on this video. And also comment down below my comment page if you would like to see more reaction videos like this, perhaps even a part 2 to this. And go and check out the sources if you want to find some other ones that I didn't throw in there. That's the first one, that's the second one, that's the third one, and I will put those links down in the description below. And please, let's try and get me to 100 subs by the end of this year. So it says here 50 subs, but that was an old one. It's 100 subs now. So guys, if you haven't subscribed, please go and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next week Friday at 6 p.m. Over and out.